Well, hello everybody, and thank you very much for dropping in. I do want to say that this is usually bilingual, and I am Mexican, and we uh, usually have a Spanish or bilingual audience. And so, if there's any questions, they can put it in the comments, and I'll answer in Spanish. Otherwise, I'm gonna do it in English. And then maybe somehow translate for the Spanish speaking people. But I do want to let you know there's a lot of things going on in the US and in Mexico right now affecting the Mexican people. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you about this. This is The Rising, and it's for a show called The Hill. Let me see if I can raise that up for you. Um, well, I would have to go like this. No, it doesn't seem to want to let me raise it up. Um, anyway, it's The Hill. Okay, it's not cooperating. Okay, but anyway, so they do such a good job of explaining what's going on with the whole caucus and how it affects the Mexican people. I think is really what is important for us, the Mexican people. And I say that Bernie is like um, Mexico's, I'm sorry, the US's AMLO. Bernie's setting all kinds of records because he's changed what's been happening in Mexico. Now there is free healthcare, free education, um, increase the money for the elderly, increase um, money for the handicapped or disabled. And there's grants for all the students that go to schools to make sure that they have enough money and food to be able to go to school. Um, just a lot of things that people really need, and I don't mean just the Mexican people. People need, and in the U.S. we have a lot of impoverished that are white too. So there's a lot of people that are interested in what's happening with Bernie, and these guys really explain it well. So I'm going to go ahead and put them on so you can hear.
Even as the presidential candidates plant themselves firmly in New Hampshire for next week, the fiasco that was the Iowa caucus continues to disappoint and anger.
As I discussed earlier, the DNC now wants a recanvass in Iowa. Of course, that timing came about when Pete complained about it as Bernie Sanders narrowed his lead. Joining us now to get into the weeds on this mess is our friend and DC Bureau's lead. Joining us now, he was on the ground in Iowa this week, which you probably know if you watched our coverage. Ryan, great to see you.
Good to see you guys.
What did you make of this whole situation where, this whole debacle is unfolding, partial results, inaccurate results, complete mess? Tom Perez doesn't say a peep. Then he gets a call from Pete, and suddenly, oh God, we got to recanvass.
Yeah. And it's also a complete and utter lack of self-awareness for the DNC chair. The moment that Sanders kind of jumps into the lead in the national press, for that to be the moment, we'll put everything else aside.
Right.
Just optics. Just have some self-awareness about what the attitude toward the DNC was a few weeks ago and is now, after they completely botched the Iowa caucuses. For him to come that moment to take the opportunity to say, you know what, we're going to redo this actually.
Right.
Because now enough is enough. And the enough is enough just felt so strongly to be looking at something else.
Right.
That Bernie was surging because, and as I pointed out, the day before, we wrote a story saying, look, this is not over. Like the satellite caucuses haven't been counted. We reported on these caucuses. We know that we don't know precisely how much Sanders dominated, but we know that he crushed it. He was the only one. And when you
He's
crush
the only one
it,
who even tried.
He organized around it too. He had organizers specifically for
going for these. And in a caucus like this, if you get 4 delegates and everybody gets 0, that's actually a huge win because you've netted 4. Whereas even at a big caucus, if you get 5 and they get 3, then you only netted 2.
Right.
So because he crushed it so thoroughly, and nobody even bothered showing up at these other ones, that meant that he was going to be able to make up substantial ground. So if you object to that, stop it then.
Yeah.
Don't wait until it actually happens and then jump in and stop it. Just absurd.
And Ryan, what caught my eye in particular is you called this, you basically reacted to the news. You called it corrupt. It's outright corrupt that right after Pete Buttigieg calls the DNC and he intervenes at that moment. Well, what makes you go so far as to say that? You're a serious journalist. I know that you won't level that charge unless it really means something.
Because there was reporting from DNC sources that said that the reason that Tom Perez made that announcement is because he saw Bernie Sanders surging in the satellite caucuses, and that bothered him.
With CNN reporting, this is not outside of this. CNN's reporting that Tom Perez's specific concern was about satellite caucuses, and as you all reported better than anyone, these caucuses were working class people, they were immigrants, they were Spanish language speakers, exactly the type of people that the Democratic Party pays lip service to, claiming that they value, claiming that they want to bring into the process, and then when they actually are and they actually show up, they try to silence them. Yeah,
and Perez didn't like the way that they were counting these satellite caucuses. And there were competing interpretations of how precisely these should be counted. The way that the Iowa Democratic Party was doing it was within the realm of a reasonable interpretation. There are other interpretations that you can make. But if there are two interpretations of how to count marginalized communities that were organized and came out, you're the Democratic Party, you should go with the one that's more favorable to the marginalized community, not jump in and try to stop the Iowa Democratic Party from doing that and push it to the one that Pete Buttigieg is asking for instead.
Well, and especially given how many, I mean, every news outlet who has done an analysis of these results of the state delegate equivalents at this point says they're wrong. Right? There are massive errors, riddled with errors and inaccuracies throughout. New York Times, NBC, CNN, AP, all of them say that, right? And so, especially when there were so many other errors, that this is the specific concern that you have, where they actually are being counted accurately within the regulations that are out there, that's your concern? It's just like mind.
Hi, got a small favor to ask of you. Please add your name to say you support our campaign. A campaign which is the most unprecedented campaign in the modern history of this country.
Blowing to me.
It's almost like they're baiting Bernie Sanders supporters to complain about the process. It's just, oh, look, see, they can't accept the process. But you're like, no, but like the New York Times reviewed this and found that your math is off.
Right.
Like,
Nate Cohn is not exactly a wild-eyed Bernie Sanders supporter,
so, Ryan, take us inside. What is the DNC's game plan here? What are they actually trying to do? Is it the cynical interpretation that they're trying to swing it for Pete Buttigieg and against Bernie Sanders?
I don't think so, because you can certainly make an argument that this hurt Pete that it plausibly could have hurt Pete Buttigieg. Now, it turns out it looks like it benefited him because he's getting this big bounce in New Hampshire. But in an alternate world where he wins by 2 state delegate equivalents and goes up on the stage on the night of Iowa and gives a big victory speech, and it's not clouded by this 3 or 4 days of shenanigans, that could be an even bigger bounce. So I don't think it's precisely that, but all of the errors going against Sanders, all of the interpretations that Tom Perez wants going against Sanders, combined with, as people were recirculating again, in 2016, he urged Hillary Clinton as a strategy to beat Bernie Sanders is to paint all of his supporters as young white people.
He literally said that. Yeah.
So that's the same guy who then now that all of these people of color are coming out to vote for him at these satellite caucuses, now trying to say, well, those shouldn't count as much coincidentally by my read of the rules. All of this.
So you can see how they tried to sway it their way and to try and make it look like the Mexican and the black votes didn't count.
this is motivated.
Well, so now, broadening out from here, you've done the best reporting on Sanders' organizing model. And on the one hand, on Iowa, overall turnout was down. Right. On the other hand, they were able to turn out these communities. Young participation, which is, of course, the Sanders sweet spot, was very much up. So what did you learn in terms of, is this model actually working? Have they organized in other states in the same way that they did in Iowa? What do you expect going forward? I
think what people need to understand is that organizing and enthusiasm is important in a close race, but it's not a magic bullet. Right. Like you have to win the fundamentals as well. And so he won the fundamentals, which put him within striking distance of winning Iowa. And then his organizing and his enthusiastic support kind of put him over the top. Right. But the idea that a candidate's platform is going to bolt turnout by 20 or 30 or 40% isn't realistic.
So what happened? People I've been focusing on this a lot. Why was turnout so low?
Well, so I mean, there are a lot of different reasons. So it appears it's probably going to be right around 2016 level. So
172.
2008, there were some structural advantages that it had. It was the Monday after several days after New Year's. So all students, college students, are home in Iowa. So then the difference was about 55,000. So that accounts for a ton, right?
Okay, here we go.
Well, I was born in a small town. Right there. Instead, now, when you do it in early February, they're all back in college. This time, Biden didn't campaign. Yeah. And so a lot of his people that wanted to support him, he could have goosed turnout.
Didn't get the John Kerry bump.
Didn't get the John Kerry. Three of the top 5 candidates were doing impeachment stuff. And Jeff Weaver argues that the negative advertising that was up on air, more than $1 million in attack ads, that there's research that shows that in general, negative attack ads depress turnout. Yeah. People are like, this whole thing is a mess.
I don't want any part of any of this. Right.
And so you combine all that, and you can pretty easily explain what's going on. Plus, it's Super Bowl Sunday was Sunday night. Yeah. So then Monday evening, this is a 2-hour process in a fairly hot gym because everybody's packed in there. It's cold outside, so you've got your thick clothes on. It's unpleasant.
It's unpleasant.
Yeah. Well, it ended up being thoroughly unpleasant, even worse than you could possibly imagine. And what about, as we look forward, I mean, Pete is surging in New Hampshire. I think he very much has a chance to potentially win New Hampshire, especially because Warren and Biden seem to have collapsed so quickly. And as we know, he'll pick up a lot of voters from that. What does his ground game look like going forward?
Okay, anyway, this other stuff is not so relevant to what I was trying to say. But I did want to just give you guys a heads up about what happened and what's possibly happening. It looks like he may have won, but it appears that it's still in the process of being either going to be recounted and if they do recount it or recanvass, they're going to find that he won. So who knows? Let's see what happens. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.